What product was so poorly designed that you suspect the team that made it never used the product? My dishwasher beeps several times loudly when the cycle is done. Loudly enough that you can hear it outside the house. If you don't open the door, it will beep again 45 minutes later, and every 45 minutes forever until you do so. There is no way to silence this feature or reduce the volume. Apparently there's no such thing as starting the dishwasher at night and then going to bed in these designers' minds. The damn Outlook search function. Another Redditor responds. I'll search my boss name, whom I email multiple times a day for the past 7+ years, and it was say, no results, or hey erase an email from 2018, which is obviously what you're looking for, nothing more recent. Way too many carrying products, luggage, boxes, bags, laundry baskets, have put more emphasis on the comfort/softness of the top of the handle, rather than the underside, which is the side that is forced into your hand with the weight of whatever is in your box/bag/basket. I have an inkjet printer, brother, that prints misaligned, makes slightly wavy text. I can't fix it because when you run the alignment diagnostic stuff, either manual or automatic, it prints a paper for you to scan so the printer can fix itself. However, the printer can't read the paper it scans because it's misaligned, so it can't get fixed. Stupidest thing I've ever seen. Even called support and they were like, "Welp, it's not supposed to do that. GG, better luck next time." The trunk won't open on some Chevrolet cars if the battery is dead. There is no keyhole or physical release cable. The battery is in the trunk. You can jump it from contacts under the hood, sure, but that's such an odd design choice to me. Women's underwear. The part that is supposed to get dirty is never far enough forward to catch what it's supposed to catch. I just bought a waterproof cargo bag for the roof of my car that was fairly expensive. The Velcro that keeps the zipper protected was just glued on, not stitched. The very first time I opened the bag, all the Velcro came off because the attraction to itself was stronger than the adhesive bond to the vinyl bag. It's like there was absolutely zero product testing, but I'm sure it was 5 cents cheaper to make it glued rather than stitched. How could something like this have ever been allowed to leave the factory? My new iron has a restart if you tip it over after it's timed out. So if you accidentally leave it plugged and it gets knocked over by accident, pet or child bumps the board, wind knocks something over knocking the iron over, it starts up while face down. My kitchen trash can. It is one sold by Glad specifically for their bigger, extra strong 20-gallon trash bags. It is not particularly cheap. It looks good, but the design of it is what you might expect if you told aliens what a trash can is and they designed one without ever seeing it. How it holds the bag basically causes you to lose 4 gallons of capacity and have to risk tearing the bag or spilling its contents every time you go to remove it. It also has a trash bag holder that is so narrow, you have to feed it trash bags one at a time, completely defeating the point. And if you try to compact the trash a bit, you're almost guaranteed to tear the tear-resistant bag. Such a poor design. I'll add a comment as someone said something that made me think. Streaming services search engines? You can literally have 10K to 50K things to watch, but there is absolutely no way to do an in-depth search. Doesn't have to be through a mobile app, maybe an online connection through a website. But if I want to find a show that was running in the late 90s and I know it was science fiction, why can't I do that? So much content I might want to watch but can't find it. My mom's had 3 wheelchairs. They all suck. The brake lever mechanism invariably interferes with the footrests. On her current one, the brake lever mechanism is curved, so it's pretty good. I think it could still be better. I'm surprised they're not better. I definitely feel like given my experience I could design a much better wheelchair than anything on the market under $1,000. I'm reminded of a book I once read by a former tech reporter who claims most of the industry is bullshit. In one of the chapters he talked about going to the Google headquarters for an event shortly after Google Glass came out. The event was centered around the product and lots of attendees were wearing their pair, but the author noted that not a single Google employee who were hosting the event were wearing Google Glass. That's when he said he knew the product was doomed. Sanitary pads. Especially ones advertised as zero bunching, they most certainly do bunch. They will go straight up your bum crack. They can only have been designed by someone who doesn't use them to have made that claim. The Bluetooth app connectivity for my washing machine didn't really want that feature, but it was a last-minute substitution. If the wash cycle takes longer than the initial estimate, the start time changes rather than the time remaining estimate. I just don't bother with the app. Any sites with lots of text and ads in between. Scroll down, start reading, then the ad loads and your article shifts down a few inches. Go to click a link but suddenly the ad loads and you click that. One of the biggest reasons I switched from iPhone to Android was so that I could use ad blockers on Firefox. My clothes dryer. It has touch controls that are designed in such a way that you pretty much have to guess what you're supposed to touch. Nothing visibly looks like a button, and when turned on has an inexplicable 10+ delay before the touch controls work, so you basically poke it all over the place without even knowing if it's the right place to poke or if you simply need to wait for nothing to happen. I mean, that's what I think, at least, but can't be sure since there seriously is no visual indication of anything. There's also a numerical display which I assumed was related to the time left until it's done, but I've been using it for almost 2 years now and I still have no clue what those numbers are meant to indicate. They certainly don't correlate with any time units I'm aware of. Baby wipes. Hey, you know when a good time to struggle with opening a package that says it has perforations but really doesn't? You want one? Here's a chunk of 20. You want a bunch? Here's a tiny ripped corner. You have 10 left on a trip and need to conserve? Too bad, motherfucker, here's the rest of the pack. Get your tired ass to CVS. My refrigerator has a water filter that cannot be changed without turning off the supply, which is behind the refrigerator. So you have to pull the multi-100-pound fridge, with all the food and such, out to turn the water off before you can change the water filter. The old Maytag it replaced had no such requirement. Modern fans. I remember as a kid they were all solid AF, mostly metal, moved tons of air, and they were quiet or at least made a consistent and constant steady sound. Now they are all shitty plastic, crap at moving volumes of air, weak motors, with cheap feet and handles that break or fall off, vibrate all over the place, wobble, fall over, make high-pitched whines, irregular noise, and otherwise just suck. And you can't even pay to win. There are no high-end models, they are all trash. The newly built ladies' toilets in our office building which had no space for the sanitary products bins. The bins ended up awkwardly shoved into the too small gap with the net result of making the actual toilets too narrow to sit on. Fully expect those dimensions were drawn and approved by someone who had no use for the bins or didn't even know they were present in every toilet. I design and build fountains, install all across the county. Reading all this reminds why I go through a lot of effort to revisit my previous installs, so I can see how things hold up after many years in public environments. It's easier to make something look nice temporarily, but the real test is when it's out in the wild. I've gone back to service or refurbish fountains up to 15 years old, and it's a tremendous learning experience seeing which parts and methods are reliable, and what needs the most improvement. This also helps me continuously design things better. Hey! We're halfway through the video, thanks for watching. 96% of the people watching my videos are currently unsubscribed to my channel. You would help me out a lot. Thanks. Let's move on to the rest of the video. I remember a couple years back there was a push for smart diapers. It was basically a diaper with a little tab on it that would tell when it was soiled. I have 3 kids, 2 of which are still in diapers, and 1 wears them for nighttime. I probably change 20+ diapers a day. I don't know any mom who would want to pay more for smart diapers, to tell them what they already know. My thought when they came out. They are definitely not changing a lot of diapers. Probably not even a parent. Okay, bear with me here, all these grocery items in plastic that have a Ziploc closer as well. The idea is great. Open, use, reseal. But in my experience, and I'm not exactly old and weak, these don't work as planned. Frequently they have the perforated section you can rip off, supposedly to allow access to the Ziploc portion. Many times there's glue holding pieces together and the perforated section never seems to extend past that. Even when not glued, the Ziploc is apparently held together by the weak nuclear force and will not come apart. There's never enough plastic to pull on, and when there is it's approximately as strong as wet tissue paper. So it just rips. In my honest opinion the worst offenders are deli meats, but it's been tortillas and more that have flummoxed me. Far too often I just take scissors to the package and then seal it later with a clothespin. Modern vehicles making changing a burned-out headlight a major nightmare. It used to be you took off 4 screws, changed the bulb, replaced 4 screws. Now it takes a degree in engineering to find all the hidden things holding the light in place. Why? I just got a new keyboard at work and it has all these great new features but there's no caps lock light. My coworker got a different new keyboard and had the same problem. Is this a new keyboard trend? Why would you make all these fancy features but no caps lock light? It doesn't seem like a difficult feature. I've wasted a lot of time typing only to realize I'm shouting. I almost want my old keyboard back. So many sinks that are nice and big, but the faucet is right next to the edge and you have to bump your hand against the side of the sink in order to use the faucet. Wastes all that sink space, and makes me feel squirmy just thinking about all the germs on that sink side. I bought a hair trimmer from Philips that has the size guide comb built in. It has a ring in the handle to change the length settings with no lock, absolutely impossible to use normally without changing the cutting length halfway through. Most of industrial machines I have worked on, newer models get worse. So unergonomic, dangerous and makes your work harder. I can especially point out label inspection slitter rewinder, Omega SRI by ABG. Compared to my old machine with the same function. Cutting tables were higher, unergonomic for women who mainly worked on it. Requires more data to operate, had to enter roll diameter, old machine calculated it automatically. More difficult to place blades, on old machine could do that above the job, no measuring required. On Omega SRI had to measure the spaces, pull the blade rack out and measure the space between blades. It took multiple tries to get right. Slow. I guess for safety reasons its rewinding was so slow, Mechanic changed the setting to make it faster but it was still so slow for the first and last 20 It was really bad for rewinding small rolls, bye-bye bonus. Didn't feel endangered by greater speeds, just kept distance. Too many tension rolls. Old one worked just fine with 12, this one had twice as much. It made maintenance much harder because labels stick to tension rolls, also impossible to put back material by memory. Touch screen, makes me scream. Yeah, cool and modern but not in industrial setting. Knobs are faster and more intuitive. All important work points far away from each other. On old machine I could adjust the settings, see the blades, donor roll and final product, use the main cutting table all standing near the center of the machine. Omega SRA, machine too long, most things in center but final product rolled in one end, so I couldn't see all the important things standing at one point. Sorry, if too specific rant, but I basically quit my job because of this machine made it so much worse. Obviously these machines have to appeal to bosses not workers. It had some visual quality control features that were bullshit, my bare eye could catch more stuff. Remember that juicer meant to be used to squeeze out those bags? It was like $400, plus the cost of the bags, but you could just squeeze them out by hand. Windows Vista had much higher system requirements than the previous Windows. When it released, a lot of vendors made laptops with Vista pre-installed that could run Vista, but not anything else. The OS requirements were so out of sync with the laptop's guts that something as simple as a web browser would move at a snail's pace and send all the fans into high gear. I'm certain that this is one of the reasons that Vista is looked back on so poorly. Most people who ran it on everyday machines got terrible performance because vendors slapped into hardware that could barely run it. When Microsoft replaced it with Windows 7, they specifically offered a new, lightweight edition for lower-end machines to mitigate that problem. And another candidate, my microwave interface was designed by idiots. Right below the Start/Stop button is the Connect button that connects the microwave to the house network. This is a function that you use at most once in the lifetime of the microwave and they place it in the most prominent location on the interface. Then not only do they hide the power level button off to the side, but you have to press another button to show the hidden options. I use power level probably 75% of the time I use my microwave and I have to hit two buttons just to get to it, while the completely useless connect button sits there occasionally getting hit when someone's finger slips. Every single asshole lighting manufacturer that makes the terminals on the light fittings they design too small for the standard fucking cabling that the country the lights are sold in uses by regulation. Every single fitting requires a junction before they are terminated into the junction in the light fitting. Every single manufacturer, and the more expensive the fitting the worse the install. I'm half convinced it's a conspiracy to justify the cost, like oh look how long it takes the electrician to install very complex. Newer nozzles for gas canisters. I guess it's law now that they all have spill-proof locks on them, but I've spilled way more with those than with the old school nozzles. To pour gas out, you have to use two hands for the lock or perfectly place one hand on it, while holding a heavy gas can over the tank of your lawnmower or whatever. I don't have 3 arms, so this simply doesn't work. I just started taking the whole nozzle off and pouring it straight from the can. My new 1,000-pound washing machine does a great job washing clothes and is all singing and all dancing. But all this additional stuff adds complexity and is an absolute bastard to clean. The detergent drawer has all this fancy stuff my old didn't and I just get so much mold growing. Have to take it all apart and clean it so often. It's so annoying. For actual physical products, all the kids' toys that are made with small, detachable parts. Even sticking within age restrictions, a lot of toys aimed at boys can be unnecessarily dangerous. I also thought this could apply to video games, and I'm definitely choosing Pokemon Scarlet/Violet. Dyson vacuum cleaners. They may be great if you live in a pristine, lovely house, but when it's an old house and you add 4 cats, a dog and 2 children, it's a useless piece of crap where the cleaning head needs to be declogged every 10 minutes. And you almost need to be an engineer to disassemble, clean and reassemble it. I hate that fucking piece of trash and am very, very sorry that I sold my reliable old Hoover. I am positive that Dyson and whoever else was involved in creating this masterpiece has never actually had to clean a house. Sucking up pieces of styrofoam at the testing clinics is not a real-world example. Virtually every single website is so riddled with ads it's unusable. Sometimes I'll try to read an article and find horizontal and vertical ads taking up the entire page. How does that get by the writers/editors? Something really has to be done about how abundant they are. Tesla. Why would you want to look at the road when you can look at your screen and go through menus to I don't know, change the angle of your air vents? New one is removing the turn signal stalk. Actually, any car that fucks with the gear selector. Does a lever really take up that much space? Can you relate to any of these stories? Let me know. If you like my content, make sure to subscribe to get notified when my next video drops. Have a wonderful day.